Welcome to AP Biology. Today's presentation is going to be on fossil evidence for evolution. So if we look at the fossil record, it's pretty obvious that there were some organisms that existed in the past that no longer exist today. So definitely some species have gone extinct and some new species have arrived. And we can find things like the Tyrannosaurus rex, which was a giant dinosaur predator that existed millions of years ago. They're no longer found on our planet today. Matter of fact, we have lots of fossils of dinosaurs of all types that are found all over the world that no longer exist today. So definitely change has taken place on our planet over time. One of the cool things we see in the fossil record is what we call transitional fossils. So we see organisms going from one form to another, transitioning from one species to another. And so the whales, we have a really good picture of this from the Valley of the Whales, from organisms that walked on four legs to organisms that were primarily swimmers but still had both forelimbs and hind limbs, to organisms that had tiny little hind limbs and well developed forelimbs and probably were almost always in the ocean. We got all of this evidence from the Valley of the Whales, which is in Egypt. It's right in this region right here. And basically what it was, we think, in the past was a big bay that whales would go into to breed. And sometimes during that breeding process, the mom and the baby would die and sink to the bottom and get covered by probably debris from the Nile. So lots of dirt and stuff would be flowing down the Nile, and it would cover up that whole region, and those bones were allowed to fossilize. If you go to the Valley of the Whales right now in Egypt, there's all kinds of places where sand is blowing around and exposing whale fossils. And they've found thousands and thousands of different whale fossils in this really small region. And what we found is everything from the four-legged early all the way to Durodon and all the way up to other individuals that are even closer in between Durodon and modern whales. So there's 15 now different intermediate species that have been found in the Valley of the Whales, showing that developmental process of whales over time. Horses are found, the developmental process of horses are found right in the United States. If you go out west, you can find tiny little horses that are the size of like a blue heeler dog, so maybe 30 or 40 pounds, to medium-sized horses, to larger horses, and then eventually to a horse about the size of a zebra, to eventually the modern day horse that we see. And its skeleton is very similar, just a little bit further along in that process of becoming a horse than those other species. Another example of fossil evidence is when we find intermediate species like the Archaeopteryx, where it's half dinosaur and half bird. So this is a feathered dinosaur, basically. So it had teeth and a mouth, just like a lizard, but it had a skeletal structure similar to the dinosaurs that walked upright on two legs, but it also had feathers. And so this is a transitional species, transitioning from the lizard looking dinosaur version to more of a bird version of dinosaur. We also see transitions in our own species from the earliest Afarensis to all the way to modern Homo sapiens. And you can see we go from Afarensis to Africanus to habilis to ergaster to Erectus to Heidelbergensis and Neanderthals and then us. Those lines kind of go through stages of development. Neanderthals had actually more brain capacity than we did, but their brain wasn't designed quite as well as ours for doing certain purposes. And so we ended up beating them out when it came to evolution.